Good morning and welcome to this Sunday's pre-recorded sermon. And we're looking at Here Be Dragons. I've always loved dragons, or at least the stories about dragons, because like you, I'm assuming like you, I've never met one. And that may well be because they are mythical creatures and inventions from old stories. But I still love the concept of dragons. I love the story of George and the dragon. I love the story of the Hobbit and Smaug, the dragon sitting on all of that gold. And I love old maps. And as you will have seen from today's Sunday's email, there are some pictures of old maps. And on medieval maps, when they were mapping out the known world, which up to that point was really the Roman Empire, and everything beyond that really was nothingness. But as they went beyond that known world, where they got to the really unknown, they would often draw what they thought a dragon looked like and write underneath, "Here be dragons," because it was the unknown. It was the fear and excitement, because it depends on what kind of person you are. Some people go into the unknown understandably anxious and understandably afraid, and others go where angels would fear to tread and go, "Whee!" jumping in with both feet. Doesn't really matter for a moment which way you go in terms of how you feel about the unknown. It still remains that it's unknown and that there could be dragons out there. The kind of dragon that you don't see until you step on it, and then it opens its eyes and then its jaws and tries to swallow you up. The dragon, of course, standing for great storms, real great storms on the oceans, natural disasters, the unknown happening, the unforeseen, and that which is stronger than we are, that which we don't really have any strength or control to stop or shape or push away. It's going to come at us, often unseen. Often not only is it unseen, but it's something new to us. So it's outside. It's outside of our frame of reference. It's outside of our experiences. So when it happens, we don't have a lot of collective memory in order to think, right, this is what we should do. You just have to react to what's happening. And often that very moment, that day, that week, a decision has to be made. And then you have to live with the consequences of that decision. And not knowing necessarily what the consequences will be, especially if there's more than one dragon, or if the dragon just keeps on going, like COVID-19, which is the earthquake that keeps on going with all those ongoing afterquakes and after effects. And as decisions get made at high level of government, at regional level, in our own households, by our own vicars, in our own churches, our own head teachers, our own local businesses, our own local shops. As decisions get made, consequences fall out, some good, some not so good. And then another set of decisions need to be made. Based upon what? Not based upon collective experience of how to deal with this, because we've never had to deal with this in our lifetime. And even if we could go back in time to Spanish flu, back at the beginning of the 1900s, it wouldn't really help us because the context is so different. The world is so different. The economy is so different. Medicine is so different. Travel is so different. We have not had to deal with this. So here be dragons. What do you do when all you've got is here be dragons? Well, I often turn to the Psalms, which is why I have today. During my time at Bible college, I read a different psalm, Psalm 139, every single day for 18 months. And it became like dust in my mouth. I almost forgot the words. I almost forgot the meaning. I got to know it so well that I forgot it. Some days I could just repeat the whole thing off by heart, things I couldn't remember the second line. But it just went deeper into me like a sponge that had soaked up all the water left in the bath and saturated me to a point where some of the phrases just have taken on a meaning for my entire life. They surround me in ways that I could not possibly explain unless you too have dwelt on a piece of scripture, dwelt on something like a psalm for a considerable period of time until the words become like dust in your mouth and they're no longer words. There's something beyond as the Spirit moves and wraps scripture around our very core being. So, what do we do when it says, "Here be dragons"? Well, you may want to pick your own psalm. Please do so. But here's my suggestion. Take a psalm. Any psalm. It doesn't really matter which psalm, because the Spirit will use it with you as an individual. And use it as a psalm, like the Lord's Prayer, to say each and every day. You're not looking for great wisdom to come out of it in week 2 or month 6. You're not looking for extraordinary answers or a burning bush. You're just dwelling on the word. You're just dwelling on the word. And I'm going to try and dwell a little bit on this psalm, which is in the Message translation. And again, it doesn't matter what translation you use, because the Spirit transcends all translations. Let me read it through first of all, and then we'll dwell a bit on it. God, my shepherd, I don't need a thing. You've bedded me down in lush meadows. You find me quiet pools to drink from. True to your word, you let me catch my breath and send me in the right direction. Even when the way goes through Death Valley, I'm not afraid when you walk at my side. Your trusty shepherd's crook makes me feel secure. You serve me a 6-course dinner right in front of my enemies. You revive my drooping head. My cup brims with blessing. Your beauty and love chase after me every day of my life. I'm back home in the house of the Lord for the rest of my life. First thing I'm going to say is my pet thing to say about this psalm. It wasn't written for funerals. It was written by shepherd boy, giant killing, crown wearing, fearing for his life when Saul first tries to kill him, and then later on his own son, David. It was written for the living. It was always written for the living. Not that that matters for dwelling on the word. And one really important reason for dwelling on a word, on a psalm, or part of a psalm, day in, day out, for the months to come, is that we're about to experience the worst recession this country has seen in living lifetime. We're about to experience, for the Midlands, which will be hit worst of all, some of the worst job losses that we have ever experienced in our lifetime. And this will just keep on giving. The number of people whom the NHS believes will be impacted because of the lack of treatments that happened in the first few months. The knock-on effect to charities and institutions, the mental health impact on a number of people of all ages, but especially our young people, is going to beyond anything we've seen. We are going into uncharted territory for which we have no maps, for which we have no rule book. And when you go into uncharted territory, when you go into a place of here be dragons, you need to have something to hold on to firmly and clearly. It needs to be as secure as the table that is in front of me, as secure as the ground I walk on. It needs to be something I can hold on to, something familiar, and it needs to be something daily, because it needs to saturate. And these things take a long time to saturate. The stubbornness of humanity and all the other so-called important stuff that we have to think about on a daily basis. It takes a long time to get into us because we are so stubborn and because we put so many things in the way. So how do we dwell on this? It doesn't matter what psalm you use. I read it through, and I only read it through once each day. As I read it through, I do allow myself to stop and pause. And it might just be on a particular word or a particular phrase. And one of the reasons I love the Message translation is because it's so unfamiliar. So it just throws me, because I know this psalm particularly well. I know it in the King James and I know it in the NIV. I don't know it in the Message. And when in the Message it says, "True to your word, you let me catch my breath." Don't know about you, but there are some days at the moment where I'm kind of chasing myself almost, and meet myself coming back in the opposite direction, just to catch my breath for a moment. Sounds like such a gift, and send me in the right direction, because I've been chasing my tail, chasing too many meetings, too many demands, whatever it is, just to catch my breath and be set off in the right direction for that moment in time. That's just a gift. And I've just paused for what, 10, 15, 20 seconds on that. Another day, I might find myself pausing on, "I'm not afraid when you walk at my side." But I can remember times feeling afraid of late, anxious. Don't get too caught on specific words. Frightened, anxious, worried, stressed, unsettled, all of that stuff. Remember, Old Testament Hebrew, the translation fails. Just think bigger and broader, and the whole spectrum of emotions and flavors and tone. So where were you, God, when I was feeling afraid? Does God ever leave my side? No. I wonder if I was focusing on the fear and not on the fact that the Lord was walking at my side. I wonder if I'd stopped in my anxiety that day and gone, "Are you at my side? Of course you're at my side. Why don't I focus on you being at my side rather than the anxiety?" What might happen then? Dwelling on the word, that might be another day. Another day, I might find myself dropping on, "You serve me a 6-course dinner right in front of my enemies." I didn't know I had enemies. Oh, the enemy, the other guy. Actual enemies? Well, yeah, there can be some nasty people out there. There are certainly lots of people at the moment online trying to diddle people out of money, trying to con them. There are people who can be very selfish. I've noticed a number of times people not just doing 40 in a 30, but travelling at 50 through our roads, through our town, through 30s. Such reckless regard, such utter selfishness. But that 6-course meal, I don't remember the last time I had a 6-course meal. 2-course meal, if I'm lucky. 6-course meal. And more than that, you serve me. So I'm sat down and the Lord is my butler or chef or both, and brings the 6-course meal to me which I bet is amazing, in front of my enemies whilst they watch. Wow. Just dwell on that for a moment. It is utterly extraordinary. Now, some people have said to me, and may well say to me after hearing this today, after a week, I'll have got out of it all I could possibly get out of it. I can only say from personal experience, and others who have experienced this too, utter rubbish. You could take just 2 verses of scripture and dedicate yourself to them for 2 years, and you will still not plumb the depths of those 2 verses of scripture. So think what you could do with an entire psalm over just the next year. If you want something solid to hold on to, if you want to feel secure and safe no matter what, as we continue to journey into uncharted territory where there be dragons, the only thing which is secure for all time and for all people is the Lord. And how do we understand the Lord best? How do we grab hold of the Lord best? Through his word, through his scripture. So, task 1. This is your vicar talking. Pick a psalm. It doesn't matter which. Take a short one. Absolutely. You don't need to take one that goes on for 360 verses. Task 2. Read it once every single day. And as you're reading it, just allow yourself to just, without controlling your mind, to stop on one word or one phrase just for 10 or 15 seconds and see where it leads you. But a bit like those cross-country runs that they used to send us on when we were at school, and you could either stop when you got the stitch or keep going just slower. When you find yourself getting bored or you think you've got out of it all you could, you just keep going. You just keep going. Here be dragons, and where there are dragons, what we need is the Lord. Amen. Stay safe and stay well. Bye-bye.